have so much fun with it. Actually.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of, I've heard them all.
Well, it can't be anywhere because I know up and coming, and especially in the military, I was called everything from like Rodriguez, Melendez, Mendoza.
Yep.
The weirdest one was Rodriguez.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's more syllables.
Yeah. All right, so let me introduce you real quick. Again, welcome back to Film Noobs. For my 3 listeners out there, especially my long time listeners, especially from the South Harmon, what is it called, Institute of Internal Treatment. Those guys are great. They always provide us with tacos every month, especially with their Social Security check. But today we have somebody who was in our 2020 film festival, and I'm glad we finally get a chance to talk because it's been a minute. Maddy Purves.
Purvis, like nervous.
I'm so sorry. I wanted to say the other way. And
no, it's fine.
Oh, damn it. And we just talked about this too. So Maddy, she got best, her and her co-director. Forget her name.
Zoe.
Won best female, right?
I think
director.
So.
And I can't remember what else.
I want to say documentary.
It might have been. Oh, anyways, okay. So your film was Same Sex Attracted. It was a documentary, full feature film. Like I said before, I really like talking to people who've done full features because it gives me a lot more to talk about.
Totally.
So, let's talk about your film real quick and who you are and who Zoe is and what y'all been up to since 2020, because that's 3 years. I know you made another film.
I've been busy.
Yeah. So let's talk real quick. Let's catch up.
Okay, cool. My name is Maddy Purves, but honestly, everybody calls me Purves. It's just, it's like a public inside joke. It's really fine. But Same Sex Attracted was Zoe and we are best friends and we're kind of artists. And so the film was kind of, at the time, it was purely like therapeutic, like a creative project that we both were like, this could be really big, but we're just going to focus on the art of it and telling our stories and that kind of a thing. But it's the movie itself. I don't know if your 3 audience members have all seen it or not, probably not, but it's on Apple TV and Amazon. And it's basically about
on TV. It's on, man, I was looking it up because I was like, dude, they've done so fucking much with it.
Yeah.
I'm so happy when I see like filmmakers make it.
Yeah, we just kind of pushed it. I mean, it was weird because 2020, obviously, we were hoping to have in-person premieres and tours and parties and, host public screenings and get kind of a movement going around it. But obviously that didn't happen that way. So we were very happy with the festivals that took us. But after a while, I kind of was just like, it just needs to get public. People are going to be watching it online anyway. It might as well be on Apple TV versus, something online that they got to figure out how to connect their laptop with an HDMI to watch it, kind of a thing. So,
yeah.
But the movie itself is about queer BYU students. And BYU, for those of anyone who doesn't know, is the Mormon college in Utah. It's a private accredited institution. And many people ask if this was a student film, and it was not. I was a film student at the university, but in fact, all staff and faculty really wanted nothing to do with the film, and so it is not affiliated with the university at all.
Wow.
So that's kind of the long and short of it.
I did have a lot of questions pertaining to the film.
Right on.
Some of them I don't know how to ask without like sounding so insensitive about it.
I love that. Please be insensitive. It is, we have to just talk, there's nothing wrong.
And the biggest thing and the biggest question is, okay, if you are queer, you understand you're going to a very narrow-minded Christian university who's private. Why the fuck are you still there?
And why are you going and why do you stay?
Yeah.
It's the first question everybody asks is like, why are there even kids going there?
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long if you kind of think about it. I was a Mormon before I was a gay person, if that makes sense. I was raised in this religion that was now I have a perspective of it as a cult that it brainwashed me into accepting a lot of things that turns out are not based in reality. But that's how these kids are they enter the university like me. I didn't know I was gay until after college had already started. And for my whole life, it was BYU or bust. That was the only college, not only that my family really supported me going to, but also in the culture. I was one of the few Mormons in my California town, and it was kind of just understood that if I went to college, it would be to BYU.
Okay.
That's just the track, and it's not just the case in California and out of Utah. Within Utah, it's different, but it's pretty much students apply to all the Utah schools, and if they get into BYU, it's pretty much they choose it. If that makes sense.
Okay.
And why not leave? There's a lot of reasons. I didn't want to have to leave and say why. A lot of it would have included me pretty much admitting to my family, coming out to them as queer, but also as I didn't want to stay Mormon, and I didn't know how they would accept that too. And if I left the university, it would be because of that, and it would raise flags. And a lot of other queer kids say the same thing: is that they first can't afford other places. BYU is cheap as hell, especially for Mormons. It is more expensive for non-Mormons. But secondly, there's the pressure of staying, and even the internal pressure of, if I am really good enough, if I'm a good Christian, I will stay here so that I can, be held accountable, so that I can be surrounded by other like-minded people, and so that I can stay on the straight and narrow, if that makes sense. There's a lot of reasons why to stay and why to go, but it's for most people outside of it, it's so hard to fathom. Like, why go to BYU? It's the worst place for you to go.
Yeah.
but it's a backwards experience from that, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. And again, I had to hear it in that perspective, because I'm looking at it from very gilded eyes.
Yeah, right.
And so for me to sit here and be like, man, dude, why are these kids doing this to themselves? Why go through that hassle? Because again, I go to a private Catholic institution, but they're very open about it. I go to the I forgot the name, Incarnate Word University, which is it's a private. It used to be an all-female private university, then they changed and so forth. So, but it's still private, Catholic based, and I mean Catholic based university.
Sure.
And as long as you abide by the principles of the sisters and goals of the sisters, then you're good. And
you go to mass and you're fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't matter your orientation or whatever, as long as the sisters are number one.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do your homework. Yeah.
Yeah, and you do your 40 hours of community service, and everything's for the community and all this good stuff. So, but the education that we get through them is awesome. So anyways,
great.
But it was one of those very gilded eyesights that I saw when the first time I saw the film. I saw it from the perspective of a filmmaker making a voice heard. Now I'm kind of seeing it,
absolutely.
From like, okay, there's a message there. Okay, wow, what's the message? And now that we're talking, I'm like, oh, dude, this is awesome. So okay, cool. Moving forward, what has been your biggest hurdle because of the film?
Interesting. What, in my personal life or in making the film or
filmmaking? Because again, I imagine not many people. I imagine there's not a market for this type of film.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So what's the hurdle been like for you?
It has been frustrating. I think honestly, just because Zoe and I are nobodies, and we're not associated with Netflix or anything. There's a lot of Mormon media out there, and a lot of it is kind of hot button and even like interesting. Like Murder Among the Mormons was a Netflix series that kind of passed around. Then there was just recently Under the Banner of Heaven, which had Ryan or one of the Andrew Gosling or something in it, and people liked it on Hulu. But ours has really struggled to kind of get out into the public because I think we're both, young female, out of nowhere filmmakers that are like, hey, we're first time. And with the 2020 kind of cutting off our distribution plan, it also kind of cuts the legs off of any kind of marketing thing. It mostly also I just totally hit depression. I was like, I've been working so hard on this thing that means so much to me for so long. looking forward to that payoff that just it was different than what I thought. So pretty much we just were like, okay, you know what, get it online. And I think in some ways that's allowed us to push it ourselves, just send links out and join things like this, like festival communities, but also, you know, religious communities or ex-religious communities that are interested in talking about religion or beliefs and that kind of a thing. So I don't know if that answers it, but it has been frustrating. If I had money, if I had, you know, if I knew Steven Spielberg and I could reach out, it might be a different story because it is, I think, a film that is from the heart, and those are rare. And I think if it was found by the right people, it could have, you know, exploded. But we didn't. At the end of the day, we stopped caring about that. We just wanted eyes to watch it and to have conversations like this, because that is the theme of the film is conversations. We have to have them, even if it's uncomfortable, because we have to get out. We have to verbally say what our cognitive dissonances are. You know, faith and sexuality. Why isn't this working? We have to talk about this so you can actually say, you know what, I need to leave this university. you know what, I'm going to stay and I'm going to choose this thing. It forces that conversation, which forces decisions. And I don't know. That was a very long answer to that question.
No, but don't stop. I'm like I said, I'm actually enjoying the fact that I could sit here with the filmmaker and get that nuance understanding of the film. Because again, there's different layers to this film, and that's one of the reasons why we picked it. It could have been easily like, oh yeah, she's the best female filmmaker because we only had 5 female and the 4 of the rest of them were all high schoolers. So it wasn't that, you know, but it was the fact that as a female, and I hate putting it this way, but as a female, to put yourself in this predicament, and I say predicament because it is, you're doing an LGBTQ film, you're doing a documentary, which is, oh my gosh, everybody hates documentaries. You love them or you hate them, you know what I mean? That's honestly. So you're doing a documentary, you're female, like you said, you're starting out. And so for you to say, oh, one of my first films was a LGBTQ documentary. Oh, dude, big old fucking red X right there. You killed your whole, you know, your whole career right there.
I appreciate you saying that. That's funny to have your perspective. It's been kind of frustrating, but
it is.
It's reality. So
yeah, I'm sorry. That's how it is in our I don't want to say network, but in our industry, filmmakers, you're judged very quickly by what you put out. You know what I mean? And you get so typecasted. And this is another question I was going to ask you, because I gotta ask the sound guy. I got asked once to do a LGBTQ. Well, it wasn't that. It was drag queen documentary.
Cool.
And somebody asked me, "Is like, well, how are you gonna reconcile that because you're not queer and you're doing an audio gig?" I'm like, well, first of all, I'm doing an audio gig because that's my job.
It's a gig.
It's a gig. You know, oh, but your name's gonna be put in, and you're gonna be, you know, now you're gonna be like told to do all these queer movies. I'm like, if they pay, cool. I don't care. I'm a filmmaker. You know, I go where I'm being put as a filmmaker, but it's different as a director, though. You are the director. This is your voice in a way, because it is. You know, regardless of what people say, as a director, every movie we put out, it's part of our voice.
Absolutely.
So how do you reconcile with all this?
Well, I actually, it's interesting that we're talking about this now. I've been making movies since, and for me, my career story, I fell in love with filmmaking after I used it kind of as a therapeutic process. But Zoe and I co-directed it. We were both creatives, we're both artistic people, and I was applying to the film program at BYU, so it was on my mind. It's kind of like almost like a new medium of kind of getting passionate about. And in making this movie, I kind of just fell in love with all the processes. I like the post side of things too. So I respect the sound guy because it makes all the difference in the world. And you know that more than anybody. But I'm kind of right now working on a documentary about the American healthcare system And just like you say, it's a documentary, which is kind of like, oh, interesting, but you kind of already glaze your eyes over. And
Yeah.
healthcare, which is important, whatever, but also boring.
Yeah. I'm like,
Right? You're
you're
like, I'm
not
not gonna
coming
watch
back.
this shit. Exactly. The other one that's online already, my other film, Anchor Point, is about female wildland firefighters.
I saw that.
But you did. Oh,
I
thank you.
started watching it. Yes.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate that.
I'm gonna have to bring you back to talk about that too, because
Yeah, sure.
that was interesting. I was like, she got me hooked.
It's more. Well, I don't know. I now I'm all flustered. That's very nice of you. Nobody ever watches has seen my stuff like that, but that's cool. But what were we talking about? Healthcare. What my current director, I'm editing this healthcare documentary, and we're both very cognizant of that. We've both had past projects like SSA that's what we call it, shorthand SSA, same sex attracted, that have been less than what we wanted in terms of audience reaction and everything.
Yeah.
And looking into it, if we don't have a big name, or you need somebody in the know to kind of let you in that door. And it's the same in probably every industry. But I've kind of given up on that. I don't really care if I have to schmooze with Brad Pitt. We have the resources now where we can publish and distribute ourselves. And if that's kind of if the point is to make films and to tell stories and all of that, then distribution should not be the first thing that you think of when you're going to create. It should be, we've had the experience now. Okay, we know that we can reach out to Gravitas Ventures or to Magnolia Pictures and try to get a low-level distribution, or we can put it on Amazon ourselves and push it ourselves. And if something works, if a marketing kind of push comes out of that, excellent, we'll hop on it. But it's about making the film. It's, if that makes sense. So in some ways, success or not, how famous we get or anything, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So.
No, I mean, I totally get you. And this is something I have told a lot of people. And I think this is why, and I'll restate, I'll anchor myself on this point, why I only want to do interviews with people who've done features. And nothing against people who do shorts, but most shorts really don't go anywhere. As a feature, you're doing a lot. But once you release that feature and you've released that feature, that's another fucking animal. And if you survive that, you need an outlet. You need an additional push, because I've been there. So that's my mentality is, again, I'm not trying to do anything against shorts. It's just the fact that I understand that once you release that feature, it is it's with you for the rest of your life. You're constantly,
it's out there.
You're absolutely, dude. Somebody watch it. Somebody feels something. And again, that's something about, if you never released anything and gotten bad reviews, or somebody saying, "Oh, dude, you're a fucking shitty ass filmmaker," whatever. I didn't do my job. I emote something from you, like your film. It got me thinking. And again, I'm one of those that's like, dude, I don't care what you do in your bedroom, as long as you leave me alone, I leave you alone. We're happy. We could co-live, cohabitate, whatever. I don't care. That's my mentality. But when you see something like this, I'm like, fuck. Wow, that's human experience right there. That's fucking like, dude, these kids, all they want to do is live life. And something as simple as the Bible, or these stupid beliefs, because they are, and it's not just your religion, it's everybody's religion. Always puts a stop on life. And I'm like, aren't you contradicting what you're saying about life and love and all this bullshit? Like, so again, I'm sorry, I get excited because
this is great. This is the best part.
That's what your film did. And again, that's why we picked it, because it emoted that much in us. And we're like, wow, cool, that's badass. And then when I had the idea of bringing Film Noobs back, I'm like, okay, let me bring back the films that I know I personally loved and voted for.
Wow.
All my other crew that votes for everything, again, they're part-timers, whatever. This is my time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bring these back guys and just like talk and just bring back their films, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that so much. It like there's so many untracked hours, just hours and hours and hours spent, if not working in Premiere, then thinking about your films. And with this one too, it was so autobiographical and it was so personal that it just, all of this went into like even just thinking about it, and it's nice to hear somebody who's never heard any of the conversations that went on behind the scenes, in making the film, can have a reaction. That's what we want as filmmakers, is for somebody to connect. And even if they don't come to the same conclusion that you probably intended them to come to, you got them thinking on the same thought. And all of a sudden we're both just two humans who can talk about something that's great. I think of the scene, I don't know if you're thinking about it, where David, the believer, is talking about how he doesn't know if BYU should change. He's on the bridge, and there's the bell tower behind him, and he's kind of like,
because it won't be BYU if it changed.
Yes. And just before that, he says, but it is horrible, but we can't change. And showing him grappling with that, and just kind of the tension there was the point of it, because that is what gets people thinking. Like, oh my gosh, you can see him thinking. What does that get you to think about? How did this person arrive at this conclusion? And that's you're right. It's the human experience. That's what, I don't know. I'm glad to hear that it affected you. That's touching.
No, I mean, again, I love to wave the flag for indie guys, because we're the ones who are out there, and I say this all the time in Hollywood, they're just churning out bullshit. But with us, it's like, dude, we're passionate about what we put out.
Yeah,
especially like yourself.
100%.
With the film, you let me see if I get it right. I'm looking at this on IMDb. It said you raised 50 for it.
We actually just kind of guesstimated that number when we submitted.
So how'd you raise the funds for it, and how much of it was like for post, pre, and all that other good stuff?
Most of it was for production and post. Pre-production was mostly us on like looking up how to do this, because I was just taking beginning film classes, and other than writing classes, and I took animation classes, other than that, we were kind of newbies at this. So we watched a bunch of movies, we took notes and all the things, we read all the articles and all the YouTube channels. What was your question? I just come 100%
on your budget.
Oh, budget. That's right. So in doing that research, I came up with this magic number of like, okay, a basic documentary starter kit. And that was kind of our starting budget, was we just need SD cards and hard drives and a camera and a couple microphones. And that was our first budget. And we started with a Kickstarter in 2016, I think. And in that Kickstarter, we raised almost $8,000, which was great. That was kind of our production budget.
That's really amazing that you raised that much to begin with.
It was really hard. We did it in the middle of school, but it was totally, we had support. The interesting thing is that because BYU, or even Utah, is one of those places where it's like the front lines of like LGBTQ rights, because it's one of the places there's still tension and happening. That's not the case in California, right? That also means you get a very vibrant counterculture. So we had a lot of support from allies, because they could see very clearly their next door neighbors suffering so much. So that was kind of nice. We got a lot of support from non-BYU people. But other than that, the finances, we actually all raised ourselves after that. We financed the rest of production. So the guess of $50,000 includes, gosh, I mean, I worked part-time as a handyman contractor. So I was doing plumbing and electricity. That all went into the pot of Adobe, subscriptions. And we hired, I think we spent, $5,000. We hired a sound guy, because I don't know anything about sound. So he came in and post sound cleanup. We hired another person to help us with color. Come to find out, in documentary, you can probably color yourself. It's another learning experience. I don't know if I'd pay that. If it was another micro budget thing, I don't know if I would do that again. But sound, definitely. And travel. There was a couple of times where I drove down a couple of times to Southern California. Zoe actually flew once to DC to film a shoot that we didn't end up even including in the film. Things like that. And I think 50 was high for what we quoted, but it was a nice round number when we were submitting on IMDb. So it was between $25,000 and $50,000 in that bracket.
Would you do it again?
For that much money? I'd do it for less. Absolutely. I would do it again for less. I would do as much. I mean, now I have, it doesn't, whatever camera, doesn't matter if it's 4K or not, you have to know how to use a camera. I'm learning now how to use a camera. So I could do it for less, it would take less time and that kind of a thing. And yeah, I would.
I love that answer. I really love that answer. Because a lot of people are like, no, I'd raise more money. I'm like, why? It doesn't. Now, I love the fact that, what was it on, I think it was one of the big tier festivals. Somebody was, filmed their whole film on an iPhone.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, if that person could film on an iPhone a feature film, there's no excuse we could ever give as to why I'm not making a film that matters.
Agreed.
I'm sorry. Now sound is totally different though. You still need
That's
sound.
true. It's very true. But with this handy recorder, which is I think brand new, like 600, maybe 700, I don't know the recent prices, but that and an iPhone, like if we're talking bare bones, that's all and maybe a tripod, right? That's all you need. And any more than that it becomes I don't know, I want to say the word incestuous. It becomes like, we need to have this 8K camera so it really helps the art. No, you don't need an 8K camera to help the art. Like if that's, I totally agree with you there.
Okay, I have to ask a question because you said you went to film school, and this always gets everybody. You're either one or the other.
Sure.
Should you go to film school or not?
Could I?
Should you go to film school or not?
Should you? Oh, that's completely independent, I think. And my film school was actually, I got a bachelor's in media studies from Brigham Young University. So it wasn't like LA Film School or practical where you have 2 years, especially, of very much on-set experience. And for some people, I think if you want to go and do the PA thing where you go and live in Hollywood and you live with 6 other people in a small place and you just take every PA gig you want, then sure, go to film school so you know the basics. Don't go to something that costs like $100,000. That's a waste of time and money. Oh, I'm so sorry, homie. I'm so sorry. It's not fair. We weren't told that college is like marginally helpful anymore.
Yeah.
But that's my advice. Like it really depends on what you want to do. I think if you want to go and become like a film writer, maybe the way to do it is like to apply to one of the bigs in, like USC or one of the other kind of film schools. But even then, just pick up a camera and start making stuff. You don't have to go to film school, and you don't have to know like a clothespin, the Hollywood word for a clothespin, a C-47. Yeah. You don't have to know that to tell a good story. So, that's so, and also film school can offer network. It can offer kind of a basic, you can say I took this certification or I took this training and that kind of a thing. So there's benefits to it that way. I just think it's not worth the money.
Yeah, I laugh because one of my friends from Austin, she put out a book about all the little quirky, like, I'm going to go take a 10 or go take a 20 or whatever. Or to see whatever. I'm like, I don't know any of these. And I've been in the industry like for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I still don't know half of these terms. I'm like, dude, what do you want? Clothespin. Oh yeah, I got plenty of those at home.
Seriously? Oh, you want a rubber band? Is that all? Just start with that. I also think this is also, I'm a documentary. I love documentary, but even more than that, I love independent film. Yeah. Like there's just, I don't feel any drive anymore to go to the Hollywood thing. And I think actually that allows us more creative freedom. We don't have to really fight and create a proposal for why to include a certain sequence or not. You can just make your case and say why you feel passionate about something and work together to make good shit. That's the best. Why would anyone want to go to Hollywood and be told what to do all day and starve and not get paid enough? Just pick up a camera and start shooting.
And I think there's a, besides the creativity, I think there's a freedom.
Yeah.
Independent film, because and you just said it on the nose. when I could go to another town, another city or whatever, find a fellow filmmaker
Hmm.
and talk for hours and instantly connect with them
Yeah.
on a different level than anybody else, and still be able to say, you know what, wow, dude, let's do something right now.
Yep.
And you've just now started a new revolution right there.
Yeah.
That to me is like wild to think. And in Hollywood, you're like, no, like you said, no, you have to get it greenlit. First, you have to go through the
Mhm.
writer's room and
Mhm.
the editor and blah, blah, blah. And,
You got to schmooze to get certain companies on board to finance certain things, and then you got to partner with like even food vendors that are approved and everything. It's a nightmare.
yeah, it's just ridiculous. I'm like, dude, why? It's like, you see half of these people, you're like, $20 billion. I'm like, okay, what did you
Where
spend?
did that go? Like,
Your movie's worse than mine. And I
mm,
put it in a B movie.
that's oh my god, absolutely. It's nothing more frustrating than seeing the budget of something and it's a shitty movie. Like, ugh, this has been so
Documentary.
refreshing. Thank you so much for having me on and talking about this. It's been very good to talk to somebody else.
Oh, no, no problem, man. That's what I'm here for. Talking about documentaries, it's hard
It is.
because again, like I said, most people will either hate them or love them. And
Hmm.
there's if you love them, most of the time you gravitate to the, it's like, oh man, Marilyn Monroe killed herself or whatever.
Yes.
Those
Yeah.
kind of documentaries.
Richard Ramirez. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but the documentaries where you see an issue that needs to be addressed,
Hmm.
most people kind of stray away from.
Yeah.
Why do you keep doing this to yourself?
I
Especially for the firefighters now. Come on.
Well, the firefighter film I jumped on because I knew the filmmaker, and I just came on as an editor and then helped produce. And that was mostly a opportunistic thing where I was like, "Oh, you need an editor? I want to become an editor. Perfect. I'll hop on this thing that I like. I like women. You know, I'll make a movie about female firefighters. Absolutely.
Right.
But in
Women
doing
firefighters.
both of
Yes.
you're like, all right, yeah, I gotta watch hours of footage of this. Okay.
I get to be with them. Oh, yes.
But there's also something kind of addictive to sitting in a chair and forcing yourself to connect with another human in a way where you are considering their life as a narrative and forcing yourself to also verbalize what it is about their narrative that you connect to, and then figure out a way to present that in a way that the audience can also connect to that. That's addicting. That's like therapy, and it's also like scrapbooking in a way. It's so it doesn't matter. I don't think that maybe nobody will watch it. I'm seriously like I'm shifting into filmmaking as my career. It's what I identify as, and I'm gonna figure out finances in a different way because it doesn't matter how many people see the film. I can figure that out. I can distribute myself. I can network myself. I can start a social media campaign for pennies on the dollar. I can't guarantee that I'll get Michael Moore on the phone and it will set up some HBO production.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. I've given up on trying. I've given up on cold calling and emailing. So it might as well just make art and figure out how to do it for the purpose of making the art.
Just like, sorry, I'm so in tune with what you're saying. I'm like, dude.
You're like, yeah.
Especially because I hate. This is one thing I hate editing.
Do you really? Oh, that's funny. That's my favorite
I can't
thing.
sit. I'm not an editor. I can't sit here and I've seen the film when I'm filming. I've seen the film in my head. I know what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I'm filming it. But when I get to the chair, I'm like, nah.
Zoe, my partner, was that way. She was very much like, I'm so passionate about something and I can see it and I want you to do it.
Yes, that's exactly it. So yeah, so to hear an editor's point of view, I'm just like, wow, cool.
Interesting. It's different, sure.
I guess I'm that way when it comes to audio, but when it comes to editing, I'm like, nah.
Sure.
Can somebody do this?
Yeah.
I'll pay anybody. I don't care.
Sure. That's funny. And with sound, I can't tell the difference between someone's like, oh, doesn't that sound so much better? And I'm like, I think so. I think, yeah, I think so. Thank you.
I was talking to I can't remember, Ryan from Ninja Badass, and I was telling him, I was like, because I geeked out for like 5 minutes telling him why I picked his film for best sound, and he's like, yeah, it was an accident. I know. No,
Like it wasn't conscious. No,
it was not a dude. It fits the genre. It fits, and I was going off on it, and he's like, yeah.
Well, it's good you're around then. The industry is short on sound people, people who have passion about sound. I think we have too many writers and directors.
I think we have too many cinematographers.
That too, 100%.
Cinematographers.
Yeah. Cinematography.
Yeah. Real quick, let me take a break. Not here, but on the podcast.
Sure.
Because I'm running out of time on my Zoom. I'll send you another link. That way we can continue. All right.
Whatever.
Cool. All right. Let me see. It'll be like 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
All right. I am so sorry.
Don't be. Oh gosh, I've done it so many times. I've actually done it with a client recently, and I just didn't tell them. just footage. I was like, "Oh yeah, we're recording," and we hadn't been. I started. It happens. It's classic.
All right. So for those of you joining us again, I did the most film noob thing I could ever do. We spent like maybe about 30 minutes talking. The second half. Great conversation, great emotion, great.
I wept.
I cried like a little baby. Y'all should have heard me, guys. Y'all missed it. I can't believe I did that. I didn't hit record. By the way, if y'all can't figure out what I didn't hit record until I said, all right, bye. And I was closing out the session and I hit the stop and it said recording in progress. I was like, oh.
Literally everyone has done that. Everyone has like at least 4 times. Yep.
Well, I hope not. I'm supposed to be professional about this. I'm supposed to be like, yeah, Film Noobs, like the podcast is great. And yeah.
It is. In Film Noobs, we do this shit all the time. It is so easy to press the record button so many times. How many times have you done that? You're shooting B-roll. I don't know if you do that, but
I do it all the time.
Constantly. Or like you see the clip, the thumbnail for what you're downloading, you're like, oh, that looks really good. And you start and it's like, okay, action. And then it cuts. Like it just, we do this shit.
Worst thing ever as an audio guy.
Yes. Cut. Yep. Oh.
Yeah, cut. Can we have another one? Because I heard a noise in the background.
Oh, technical? Thank you.
Yeah. I could get away with it because I'm an audio dude.
Sure.
Video guys, I don't think they could get away with that shit.
Probably not. There's just too many. There's too many video guys out there.
Well, no, it's just the fact that it's like, well, can we see the playback on that? And he's like,
There is none.
I could always be like, oh, I heard something in the background. So yeah, that's bad take. You know, audio side, we just bad take. But on a podcast, how do you justify that? Oh, no, you can't.
No. Bad take though is a good name for a band, by the way, though.
No, I wanted to start a band called And More.
Oh, okay.
That way, you know how on the Grammys they're like, oh yeah, Soundgarden and YouTube and more. I'm like, yes, we made it and more. We got to be there.
Genius. That's totally genius. Wow. Etc.
There you go. TCT ... Add one more dot just so you don't get in trouble.
Totally. One more dot. That's funny. So what do you want to rehash?
Okay. The 2 questions I asked you. Oh, okay. Man, I feel so bad.
Don't. We can just pretend like nothing happened.
Well, we just talked about it for the last 10 minutes. So,
that's true.
There.
Also, I can start. Your first question was that about budget, or did we already talk about that?
No, we talked about that in the first time. No, actually, the first question when I came back was, and we were talking back about the film, was one, and I read the quote. I'll read it again because
what has happened since? Time. Oh yes, yeah.
It's BYU continues to ban LGBTQ students groups from meeting on campus as of 2022. During an off-campus September 22 BYU LGBTQ students back to school Pride Night, 100 protesters. It's interesting how they have 100 protesters. Many also BYU students gathered and yelled slurs at 300 LGBTQ BYU students and friends in attendance. It was just 100 protesters, so I guess they're good with just 100. They met the quota.
No, yeah, that made a big. They met their quota. That's funny. They that happened, and that was kind of a combination of USGA. They were represented, but since COVID, there have been a lot of nonprofit and also just social awareness groups on social media who have kind of sprung up and kind of coalesced, whatever. They've gotten together and they put on that group together. So there was USGA, but there was also, I think, Affirmation, one of the churches almost related things. I think they were represented there. Rainbow Collective with a Y, so that's in there. And interestingly, there's kind of also been a counterculture movement with more and more of like the Mormon church's politics being publicized on the internet. And just also with the media, not only this film, but many other bigger ones, like the Murder Among the Mormons and the Banner of Heaven.
Yeah,
it's being talked about, and people are leaving en masse. The church is hemorrhaging members, which I'm glad about. And part of the interestingness of what's happened since this movie's come out is it's gotten back to the protest level, like, you know.
Yeah.
I think because it's gone all online and all digital, so there's like a weird, interesting like activity among millennials who are like rehashing this and bringing it to the forefront again because they're all on social media and they're talking about it and they're bringing it back to the front. And so it's going to be interesting how the Mormon church has to handle it. We were talking a little bit about how people who are still in the church or maybe on the edge, they're married to someone who believes, or the current kind of conversation and debate of will they, won't they change? Will the Mormon church allow gay people to get married, for example, or not? People talk about the church's history with race and racism. In 1978 was the first time they changed their doctrine and policies to allow Black people to perform ceremonies, to enter, and then, you know, participate. What Mormons believe is like life-saving ordinances. That was in 78. That was a good decade or so after. Yeah, I know. And I don't know, the Mormon church is so good at PR and somehow that's not really known by lay people. That's, most people hear that and they're like, whoa, that's kind of late, isn't it? Yes, it was. And I think the debate between fringe Mormons, believers, non-believers, people like me who I've left, but I can't leave it alone, you know, that's the debate is, will they change like they did with, and the phrasing of this, there's many articles about it, is the Blacks in the priesthood. That's if you want to look at, it's rough. There's lots of stuff about that. Will the church kind of double back and change their stance on homosexuality, or will they stick it out and eventually like get smaller and smaller? You know, and that's what people say is it will change because they did with race. They'll change with every social justice issue. I kind of am in the camp where I don't think it will. I don't think it can because of the weirdness of in doctrine and in the Mormon doctrine, the importance of marriage and family, namely a man and woman and creating children. That's like half of Mormon religion right there. So I don't know if it can change. And I don't know if they care. It's so interesting to kind of watch all these current events happen as the world, you know, us worldly people progress in one way and the church either stays or goes the other way. It'll be interesting for the next decade to see kind of politically what'll happen.
Well, I mean, and we mentioned this before, the fact that the Catholic Church recently changed with Pope saying, hey, gay people are okay. You know, God said gay's okay.
Right,
you know?
Right.
And that's so weird because, religion is one of those things, and again, we said it, but religion is one of those things that most people don't want to talk about it because it sucks. It sucks ass. It doesn't allow, it's so contradictory to what it preaches about love and unity and understanding and cohesion and all that good shit, when all we want to do is be human and live and just coincide and be happy, dude. Fuck.
Totally. You know? I don't know if you received this in your Christian upbringing, Catholic upbringing or whatever, but the idea of like gosh, obedience as a value, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I no longer think of obedience as something to like take pride in. Like, yeah, I'm an obedient person. That is religion. Religion is like, it is important to follow the rules. It is important, and your moral standing depends on how closely you adhere to these rules that we have decided. There is no critical thinking involved. There is no self-discovery involved. It's 100%. I submit my thinking, processing power, and decision making to somebody else who has their own agenda, and I will just follow that. I'm not going to think of what I would think myself. I'm going to take what they have given me is the answer, and I'm just going to embrace it and like let it dissolve, like turn into what I believe.
Who I am.
Who I am, absolutely. And what is right and wrong, I don't come up with. I'm told what is right and wrong.
Yeah.
I can't stand that anymore. I think all religion does that. That's the only point of organized religion, is to organize a set of beliefs and to police that set of beliefs. We don't need that. We don't need religion to be spiritual. Like you say, we can have a relationship with ourselves and any other person, and that's the most important thing, and that's the only thing we can do. We can't do anything other than that.
And again, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the fact that as filmmakers, I love that medium because we're kind of like priests, you know, we're given the power to touch people's lives and touch people in a different way. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I did tell you about, the fact that, again, I'm one of those that, like, dude, I don't care what your preference is. I really don't.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't care. It's
you
not
do you, I do me.
You do you, boo, and I do me, and we're good.
Yep.
Once you infringe on that, then we have issues. But that, you know, and for me to sit here and watch a film that specifically talks about, you know, kids having to deal with not being queer, but dealing with the fact that that's all they want. They want to live life in a community that doesn't allow them because of beliefs or belief system. Because it's a system, it's not beliefs.
Right.
It's a system.
Yeah, smart.
Like, fuck, dude, it gets you thinking. And I'm a Church of Maddy, you know.
Church of Maddy. No, absolutely not. No church.
Cult of Maddy.
Cult of Maddy. That's better. I'd be a really good cult leader. You know, I got good training. Good training for that.
But it's one of the things that, it makes you think. It's smart. It's witty when it has to be, but it brings you into realization that you have to connect with people. You have to understand that point of view. I mean, and it was done great, and I loved it, and a lot of us loved it, and that was one of the reasons why, again, best documentary is, like, again, and I think I've said it, or if not said it, I'll say it right now. People hate documentaries because most of the time they're kind of boring, but because you're trying to do a message, but it's done not to where you're bringing people in. You're just trying to tell a message, but you brought people in because, like you said earlier, that part of editing where you sit there and you try to connect with a person, and that's the difference, I think, that you did with your film, that you just didn't put the message out there. Connection. And I think one of the connections was when we talked about David, I think you said.
David, and he's on the bridge, and there's a bell tower in the mountains behind him. That's such an important moment in the movie, because it's one of the few times that, like, in a sitting in a one location, one person will say two things that contradict each other. And you have to kind of sit and watch them do that, and watch them hold two contradicting truths and values in their head, and just kind of sit with these two. That cognitive dissonance is like a theme for me in the film, of like having to grapple with, and then ultimately you have to decide. You can't the question of, like, how do you reconcile your faith and sexuality? You can't, in some ways. You have to change. You have to adapt and grow. And that's so hard in a religious context. And it doesn't matter the religion, when you're told this is the way to live and the world is bad, and anything outside of this is scary and bad and corrupt and the devil and all that shit. And this is all the good, and you don't need to think about the other stuff. We will tell you what to believe and what to say and everything. And you're left in the middle with this given set of beliefs, system of beliefs, I like that. And what your own brain as a human and your life experience is telling you in terms of who you love, what your favorite kind of food is, like things that nobody really can tell you. It's just innate. And you're sitting with these two things and they come into conflict with each other. A lot of us, there's a trauma response there. Do you fight or do you flight or do you freeze? A lot of us just froze. A lot of us stayed at BYU when that happened. What do I do? Is this community that's told me is the only way for me to get to heaven? Is it false? Or is it true? And I'm gay and broken and life is just fucked up that way that I have to be celibate or whatever. Like what is it? And that doesn't you don't have to be Mormon to really relate to that in any way. My mom, right? When it's kind of a moment of growing up when you realize your parents are also people and they also make mistakes. It's another kind of it's the same thing. The reality you thought was one way is crumbling, and you have to decide what to accept as reality moving forward.
Yeah, man, it's so crazy. But yeah, again, your film was awesome, and it did its job. It emoted not just feelings, but a sense of, I don't want to say curiousness, but awareness. And it wasn't just awareness for being queer or queer students, but it just awareness of the fact that, like you said, 1978, things are still changing, and you're like, it's 2000s, and we're still having issues about humanity and understanding and compassion and just all around. Just sit there and listen. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Listen, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay to not know the answer. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to say sorry. Like all of this is fine and in fact important. and I think we've lost a little bit of that. Like in religion, it's really easy to see because politics somehow come in. Does Christ care if you're a Democrat or Republican? Probably not. But somehow
it's gotta be Republican.
Right there. Well, that's part of it, right?
In Texas, Christ is Republican.
Which is so interesting, right? That has nothing to do with Mormonism, but it's the same conversation.
Yeah. And I'm
glad that you connected. That's my job as an editor, is to find the thing in the footage and in the whatever that I connect to and figure out how to translate that into a film so that an audience can also connect to the same thing. That's movie magic. That's what I love about editing. And I'm glad to hear that it worked.
The next biggest thing that we talked about that I didn't get to record was about distribution and going to film festivals, the importance and about self-distribution more than distribution, self-distribution.
Totally. Pretty much we talked about it and I still think is true. And the more we talk about it, the more I think it's true, is just self-distribution is the way of the future for filmmakers who care more about the piece that they make rather than the money they make. That is true, is put your shit out there, keep control of it, and don't waste any of your time or resources hoping for a big payout that isn't it's on spec, right? Spend all of your time and resources that you have in making the best piece of art that you can. Don't waste your time, don't waste your precious money looking for something that isn't secure. If you focus on your art, that's when the best stuff happens. And everything else will figure itself out. The finances will figure itself out if you focus on your job, making movies, making shit happen.
See, and that, oh man, I wish we could have gained that one momentum, because that's one of the quotes that you had said that I loved, that you made a point of, and I appreciated that you should invest in what you're doing, the film that matters.
Yeah.
Making the best what you can with what you have, rather than making the best film to try to make money.
Yeah.
And I think many indie filmmakers miss that point. And I'm best quote of the fucking damn podcast. Thank you very much, Maddy. Church of Maddy.
Oh, well,
brought to you by the Church of Maddy.
No. No, I refuse. Denied.
But again, it's one of those things that, yes, I get passionate about, because again, as filmmaker, as an indie filmmaker, and it's something what we talked about. A lot of times we wish and hope for that Robert Rodriguez effect, for the Kevin
Yeah.
Smith effect.
Hmm.
It's not going to happen.
No.
And even when we go to and we talked about this too, when we go to film festivals, when we apply to these big ones, Sundance,
Yeah.
Sun Slam Fest,
South by and Tribeca and all the big ones. Yeah.
yeah, most people aren't going to watch them. You know,
No.
there's a likelihood 1 in 1,000 that you might get the first 5 minutes of your film watched.
Yep. Maybe.
If that, yeah.
And you don't have any choice in what person watches those 5 minutes, which isn't anybody's fault. That's just the way. It's a competitive industry, and they can only have, any festival can only show so many films.
Yeah.
So it's really not, if you're going into making a movie with the idea that you're picking something because you think it's the most sellable, that's a different kind of filmmaking that I personally am not interested in. If you start with by connecting with a human in real life and wanting to tell a story, that is how you create good art. And then you figure out how to pay for it in a way that keeps the integrity of the original story.
Yeah.
And the finances are money is what allows you to make art. It shouldn't be that your film is your your way into a career, if that makes sense.
No. It makes complete sense, at least to me, and hopefully the people who listen to this podcast, all three of them, are kind of in the same kind of mentality, because we're all filmmakers. We all love film. We all love talking about film. We like talking to people who like talking about film.
Yeah. We all knew Parasite was a good movie before it hit, the billboards. Yep.
Yeah, we were surprised. We're like, what?
Yeah, we're like, wait, this is getting attention? That's great. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like a non-white person film that's boring as shit by millions of dollars. It's not American. What?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, no, I think too the question of, should I apply to festivals or not? Should I distribute myself or not? I think they both have the same answer of like, what is your end goal? And really being realistic with your resources that you have. And like for us with SSA is the easiest way to talk about it, because it was completely in my control. And it was also very much related to COVID. We were slotted to premiere on June, 2020. And we found that out Christmas 2019. So we were excited. We had this whole plan to go and do a big in-person event. We'd invite everybody to show up and we'd kind of schmooze and do the thing. That obviously didn't happen. And we realized in the couple of months of doing online festivals, virtual things, it was a struggle, and it wasn't, and it turned into that where I was like, no, we have to go to festivals anyway, because then we'll get the laurels and then that makes us credible and blah, 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 blah. But ultimately by August, we were looking at each other like, it doesn't matter. What doesn't matter if we go to festivals, even though this is great. I do think that is a huge perk of going to festivals, is having conversations like these with other filmmakers and storytellers and passion people. That's a huge thing. And why I still will submit to festivals, because of that chance, including the big ones. It sucks. And it's probably just a waste of $100 every time you apply, but it's also like, I don't know, why not? The 1 in a million chance is still worth it. But should you apply to festivals? Should you, premiere or self-distribute? I'll say again, this kind of festival is the kind of festival that is always worth the entrance fee, because the people involved in festivals like yours are kind of like me, where we are passionate about film and storytelling. We don't care so much than the famous people that are attached to a film, or the potential marketability of a film. That's not as important. So if that's what's important to you, apply to film festivals like this one, where you have a higher chance of getting seen, like you say, and a higher chance of also getting seen by somebody who cares about your film in a film way, and not so much in a, how much revenue can our festival make by including this film?
Yeah.
But if you want to get famous, then I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
No, and it is true, because again, we had to deal with the same ideals when we were trying to figure out what festivals to submit for with my first one, because we're like, okay, how much money do we really want to invest? And I submitted to South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. It was cringy, because we waited till the last minute to get notified. Yep. And we're like, yes, we made it, because everybody else got and no, we didn't make it.
No.
But it was one of those like, maybe, hopefully, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
but because of film festivals, we also got our distribution deal.
Yeah, right,
So,
exactly.
you know, so it I don't know, because I've been asked the same question. I'm like, it's all a draw of the luck. It really
Hmm.
is. It's all a draw of the luck. But I
Totally
believe
is.
you. And this is a question I asked you when, and I get this asked a lot too. When you get your first distribution deal, did you get ripped off? And
Oh, great
my
question.
point, yeah, my point was I knew what I was getting into.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
no, I didn't get ripped off in a way, but I didn't make any money.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you've made a great point with your plaque.
Yeah, I'll show it again.
Go for it.
Woo! I don't know if your podcast is visual, but I
No,
can explain
well,
it.
they aren't. They're not.
Yeah, okay. So this I framed two pieces of paper. And the top one is a check from Gravitas Ventures LLC. And when I got it, I was really excited. I was like, oh my God, we finally are getting money from SSA. So it turns out this was actually not. This was some kind of promotional thing they gave like anybody who had shares in the company. So it is a check for 15 cents. And it's the first check I've ever gotten that was like not $0 for a film that I've made. But I included underneath it the postage, the letter that it came in, which cost 53 cents for postage. So the plaque that I have on my wall is like negative 40 something cents. And
You
that's
got
what
it.
I've made on. Yes. But the whole point is like, I kind of knew that. We just realized in the couple of months that we were trying to do the festival thing during COVID. So it is a little different in that way that we were doing virtual festivals anyway. And the choice between virtual festivals and just skipping festivals and going straight online made sense to me because I just was fried. I was like, no, we just get it. People are watching it online anyway. Get it somewhere where they can watch it on their couch as opposed to their laptop. um, but I looking but I do think in some ways, dollars and cents, I could say that I got ripped off, quote unquote, in this first deal. We still apparently owe them somehow. Like there was a chunk of money, right? That they say, okay, great, you'll start making money after this amount is paid off.
Yeah.
And some people would say that's bullshit. But like you, I kind of knew that was what I was signing up for. I kind of knew that I had to kind of get, I don't know, taken advantage of the first time just to get online. But then, like you say, a feature is then available forever. It's a permanent, almost asset that I
Yeah.
have that is it's like a piece, right? That I have that will always exist. So at the end of 10 years, we have a 10-year distribution deal with Gravitas for SSA. I plan on taking 100% of the rights back and publishing ourselves on Amazon. I know you can do that.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of at the point where I think me and Zoe, the two of us, can do as much marketing as they did. And since we've been on Amazon and we know how to market that now, so it's worth it. I don't really care to keep calling Netflix or figuring out some email, like info@hbo.com. Like, hi, I'm a filmmaker, and I've given up on that. I don't know. I still plan on applying to festivals like this because I love this kind of a conversation thing. But I kind of think unless a miracle sale happens where Netflix calls and they're like, wow, we love your gay movie. Here's $1 million. If I'll like, other than that, I plan on self-distributing for the rest of my life just because of that. It's 100% control, and it allows me for any new project I start, if I know that in the back of my mind, I don't need to worry about marketability or anything like that. Then I can focus on, and from the beginning, creating a piece that I care about. And the reasons for creating that are all my own.
Yep.
Because it doesn't matter what other people think. All of a sudden, it's important what I am trying to say.
Man, again, Maddy, that's like every time we speak, even whether I record it or not, that again makes so much sense, and I appreciate that because again, it's coming from somebody outside of the podcast.
Yeah, right.
I told you here we talk a lot of shit, we're full of shit, but to hear somebody, a fellow filmmaker, who thinks along the same lines and has that same mentality, is like, dude, I'm so tired of this, but I can still make films and I can still have them out there and I can still have people watch them because that's what I want. That's
Yep.
who I am. I want
Yep.
people to see my message. That's all.
Yep. That's it.
And so thank you. And again, thank you for the film. And I'm gonna kind of outro now.
Yeah.
and this, and I said this before, and I wanted to put it publicly. The reason why we brought back Film Noobs, and how happy I am to talk to you, and how being here with you, talking and having had the last 2 hours conversation.
Thank you.
Um, and it's because, again, after COVID, life happens, and shit happens, and we all go through that little depression because we don't have that connection, and it's that human connection, that humanity, or whatever you want to call it. But the podcast allows me personally, to be able to connect with other filmmakers who have that spark, who still have that fire, that angst to do something. I mean, so it's that sharpening of stone, that stone, sharpened stone, that rough exterior that you have as a filmmaker, because you've done it, you've been through it. Now I'm going through it. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So much, because you've helped me more than anything else. And hopefully you can help my fellow 3 listeners. And I say 3 listeners because I always kid around that, but anyways, we learned how to self-distribute podcasting, and it's worked out well.
Good for you, dude.
It's one of those things that I appreciate other filmmakers, and I'm so happy to connect with y'all. And y'all are more of an emotional and psychological help for me, because y'all are. And I say y'all because I consider a lot of y'all that have been through my festival and through here and whatever, and hopefully from here on out I continue to connect with y'all. But it's awesome. So y'all have done more for me than I could ever do for y'all. Just know that personally, this is something that I've appreciated, and thank you. And I thank you for your time and effort, and I thank you for your film. Let my guys know, where can we find your film again?
Your guys. Hey guys. Hey my guys.
My guys.
Well, my personal name is Maddy Purves. My last name looks like Purves, so that hopefully should be easy to remember. But the film that we're talking about today is Same Sex Attracted, which we didn't mention.
We were talking about that film.
No, I'm like, that is kind of a label that not everybody knows about, but not only Mormons, but many Christian communities actually use this term to talk about homosexuality. So somebody who was very much a believer might say, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I struggle with same-sex attraction, or I am same-sex attracted, or I am SSA, which is interesting. Not everybody, instead of taking a label like queer or gay or whatever, they say that. So that's our title of our film. And it doesn't always put it on all the platforms like Apple and everything, but we include the quotations around the words as part of the title, because it is kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of label in that way. And that is on Apple TV and Amazon, as well as like Vudu, and Tubi and Roku and PlayStation, if you're a nerd like me. And the other film that I made is Anchor Point. We talked a little bit about it, female wildland firefighters.
Great
and that's also on Apple TV and Amazon. And I'm excited for you to finish it. The sound towards the end is really fun. So,
well, I'm excited to get you back here and talking about that. And
I just want to talk to you.
Next time, maybe we could bring on your co-director, Zoe.
I love that.
But I do appreciate you being here, being part of the festival, being part of the podcast. Thank you, Maddy. You've been a great person, filmmaker, just all around the Church of Maddy. Oh,
right back at you. No church ever again. Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's the cult of Maddy. Yes.
The cult of Maddy. That's better. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for those of you out there, please be kind, support independent filmmakers. Go over, check out our film, hit the like, leave a review, any kind of review, positively preferred, but leave a review. Let her know that you're watching it. Again, metadata does matter, especially when we self-distribute. The more we get it out there, the more people like it, the more the cogs in the world kind of turn and see that our films are out there. Especially when you have an awesome film like hers. Again, Same Sex Attracted. It's on
the places, Amazon, Apple.
Just Google it, man. Google it. You're gonna find it. It's a great film. Maddy, again, thank you for being on our podcast.
Thank you so much. It's been a treasure.
Until next time, hopefully I keep remembering to hit record. But again, thank you guys. See y'all again. All right, bye.